Hello, in this video we're going to look at the timeless Gothic furniture by Nichgon. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, which is a 10-piece static mesh furniture pack that goes normally for about $11. Going into the overview level to get a closer look at the meshes, you can see that details does not break even when you are very close to the meshes themselves. And this kind of style actually may go pretty well with the one of the currently free for the month assets, which was I think the Sika Mansion, which you may be able to like mix match them together considering the style. Going into the view mode, the lightning only view mode, you can see that at some of the edges it's a bit more polygony and could have benefited from a little bit more triangles and vertices, but they're still pretty good. Looking at the collision, they're convex collisions, and most of the spaces are not covered by the collision, which is a good thing. It may not be apparent on the screen, but these come with separated functional parts that are packed into different blueprints, and thankfully they are the correct pivots, so you can actually adjust each individual pieces, like rotating them and with this mirror for example, and still it looks natural. The vertices count is less than 10,000 and most of them are below 5. And only these two candles are using more than one material, which is to be expected since they're using translucency, and these are the UVs. The functional parts do share the same texture and UV, which is fine, and I'm going to get into it a bit, but there are lots of repeating parts but are not using or the UVs are not overlapped for that one to save even more space, which is a shame because most of the parts are repeated. Now I talked about how the functional parts are using the same texture. This can be beneficial actually. Well, I usually dislike it, but for this case it can be beneficial. When you make the static mesh from the blueprint in UE, it adds the material slots. So we have 3 different parts. It now has 3 material slots. But with this editor utility that I made, and you can possibly make it yourself as well, you can actually decrease it down to 1 since they're all using the same texture, and save drawcalls if you are not using interactive experience. Getting to the dimensions of the textures, there are 35 4K textures and 6 512 by 512. These are textures: ambient occlusion, roughness, and metallic. There is also these masks that I'm going to go talk about in the parameters. Now there are 2 master materials, one for the translucency part obviously, and the other is for opaque with many instances. Getting into them, the candles, it does have some parameters that I'm going to talk about. We got the normal intensity, the color, the Fresnel power. These are not that may not be that obvious. The glass too large thing, but still it's nice to have it there. One thing I dislike is the emissive. The emissive should have been from the middle part and not from the glass itself. Using masks. So getting to the material parameters for the opaque, I'm going to use this chair as an example. Now the mask is normally turned off. I don't know why. You have to turn it yourself. You can see the tint, changing the tint, and only it may not be that obvious because it's already dark color, but it changes for the wooden parts. At least in this case, because that's what's in the red channel. Now you can also change specular and roughness, as there are options for each of the channels. There is also the showcase level. You can see everything is desaturated using the post-process volume. So I think that this package looks pretty good. However, I dislike that there are the repeating parts are not overlapped in the same UV. It's not aimed at high polygon, and obviously they're below 10,000 vertices, so very very up close, especially in like when there is no texture. For example, using the light only view mode, you can see that at the edges it's not super smooth, but again, that's a really minor complaint. And overall, it's pretty good. It has many other good points going for it, like the correct pivots and separated functional parts. So that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed.